Inspired by the life of the savvy and ambitious Colombian businesswoman Griselda Blanco comes a new Netflix original limited series. Griselda tells the story of a devoted mother who, with her lethal blend of charm and relentless savagery, creates one of the most powerful cartels in history. Witness Sofia Vergara's captivating transformation into the godmother of the underworld. Griselda, streaming January 25th, only on Netflix.
Listen to the 48 Hours podcast for shocking murder cases and compelling real-life dramas from one of television's most watched true crime shows. Go behind the scenes of each episode with award-winning CBS News correspondents and producers in Postmortem, a weekly deep dive. Listen to 48 Hours wherever you get your podcasts.
This is Central Texas Life with Ann Harder.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Central Texas Life. Ann Harder here with you, and it is a joy for me to welcome to the show an internationally known power couple in the world of classical music. Composer Dani Howard, who is British, and her husband, Pablo Urbina, who was recently in Waco conducting
Indeed.
the Waco Symphony Orchestra as one of our 4 finalists for the conductor position. So it's just a delight to have you back in Central Texas, Pablo. And your first visit here?
First time in Texas, yes.
Yeah, you can tell by your accent you're not from these parts.
No, I'm not.
a little further east, maybe really further east, because you actually grew up in Hong Kong.
Yes, I was born and raised in Hong Kong, spent the first 18 years of my life there and absolutely loved it. It's still home.
That is considered home for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But you made your way to London.
Yes.
And the Royal College of Music, and
To
that's
study
where you
there.
guys met.
Yes.
Yes, we met actually on, I think the second or third day that we were there. We were, well, the one of Dani's friends will tell you that she went to live at the student dormitory, and I was a resident advisor there. So my sole responsibility was to make sure to take good care of all the students that
I think at
arrived.
Baylor they call them wingdings. They were all wingdings.
Yes.
Exactly.
So my job was to take care of the students, and
Yeah.
and he will tell you that I make very good sure that I took good care of Dani, and the rest is
Absolutely.
history.
Yes.
11 years later.
Yeah, well, but you're recently newlyweds, though.
Yes,
Yes.
this is correct.
Which
yeah,
is
on
so
the 20th
exciting.
of August. Thank you.
Yeah, but you live in London, and as we are taping this, it is raining
Yes.
in Waco, and so we
Yes.
did that just so you would feel at
Exactly.
home.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
The only
I
difference
missed it
is,
in these 2 days.
no matter what, we're always glad when it rains.
Really?
Yes,
If
of course.
That's true. Yeah.
We just need the rain all the time.
Yeah.
So.
Yes, I hear that you've had
That's true.
some bad droughts here, so it's
Oh,
good
we-
to have the rain. Yes.
Yeah, we like the rain when it happens, but so glad you're here. Don't like traveling in it so much.
No.
But Dani, so I want to talk to you about your music. You will be having a work performed by the Fort Worth Symphony.
Yes.
And that is what brings you really to Texas.
Absolutely. So I've got a concert on Saturday with the Fort Worth Symphony, and it's the US premiere of one of my first pieces for symphony orchestra. So I wrote it 7 years ago. It was commissioned by Classic FM and the Royal Philharmonic Society. And yeah, it's so nice to see that it's being brought over to this side of the world. And they were so lovely. They invited me over and wanted me to be there for the rehearsals and concert. So I can't wait. I'm driving there tonight.
Very good. And I know, it's exciting, I'm sure, for musicians to perform a new work, new
Yes.
music.
Absolutely.
But your work is well, explain how your music, I mean, it sounds like classical music. It's not like weird.
Yeah.
I guess is the best way
That's a
to
good way of saying
put it.
Well, I really care about audiences, and I want my music to be accessible to wider audiences. That's
Yeah.
really my goal. I think there's a lot of amazing new music out there, and depending on where you are, it can have a bad reputation often, and I'd really love to be that sort of gateway into new music where people can hear something maybe slightly different but not too unfamiliar that puts them off. So I that's my main goal with music.
And the name of this work
It's called Argentum.
Argentum. And again, it was a commissioned piece.
Yes.
And it had its actual premiere at Royal Albert Hall, right? I think I saw that.
It had its second performance at the Royal Albert Hall, but the world premiere with the Royal Liverpool Philharmonic.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
Liverpool.
and it was on the day of Classic FM's 25th anniversary. So that's why the piece was called Argentum, because we call it the silver anniversary, and that's Latin for silver. So that's where the name came from.
Well, you've been composing music for a long time.
Yes.
When you were a little girl, were you like, come on, oh, yeah, all right. When did you know that this was a gift you had?
Well, I think I started out actually not in the classical route. I wrote a lot of songs.
You did?
I loved writing songs. I started with drum kit and then piano and cello, and taught myself guitar, and really enjoyed playing in bands. And I think I didn't really know you could be a classical composer. I just didn't think that was something you could be. But it was when I started changing my piano pieces, and I remember my teacher Anne Grady said to me, you can't, why don't you just try writing your own? You can't do that to Mendelssohn, because I just changed a few bars, thinking that it should be something else. Or
I would really like it better this way.
Exactly. And so she really encouraged me to write some music, and I had a wonderful cello teacher that opened my eyes to the world of classical music and introduced me to composers like Benjamin Britten, who I fell in love with. And then when I found out that Benjamin Britten studied at the Royal College of Music, that was sort of where I really wanted to go.
That's where I need to go.
Yeah.
Where I need to go.
So.
Well, Pablo, you kind of have a similar passion for making classical music accessible.
Absolutely, yes.
On your webpage, I saw a picture of you and John Williams.
Yes.
And a friend thought that was Santa Claus, and you thought, this has got to change.
That is very true. And I always grew up. I don't come from a musical family. My mother loves music, very passionate about music, but she never really studied it. Even growing up, my dad is in the military, so my dad really has never really had much interest for classical music at all, and I really liked it. And the type of music that I grew up with was more sort of film music, that type of thing. John Williams, The Lord of the Rings.
Lush kind of.
Yes, that's what I grew up with, and then of course when I started studying the French horn, which was my main instrument, it's an instrument that gets featured very heavily on film soundtracks. So I started developing this passion for music, and I always think that film music and classical music, well, they're all on the same, and we've forgotten that great composers like Aaron Copland in this country, Shostakovich, Prokofiev in Russia, they all did film soundtracks alongside the great works that we know them from today. And I don't understand why that suddenly has become a division between the two genres. So I like to listen to good music. I think that's probably the word that you were going for earlier, is that your music sounds pleasant, is good, is accessible. Perhaps is a word that composers don't tend to love, because it means that everything else is inaccessible, and actually it's just good music. So that's what I like to promote, and I think that music has a wonderful job and role to play in our society, far more important than I think we credit it sometimes. And that's what I like to promote. Yeah, that's.
And we didn't talk about where you are originally from. You're from Spain.
Correct. Born and raised. I was actually born in the Basque country.
Basque.
And I was there until I was 3, and then I moved to Pamplona, which is obviously famous. Has been made famous by Hemingway and the Running of the Bulls.
Yeah, you've never not done that, or have you?
I like my life too much, and never dared to do it. I have friends that done it, and I respect it very much, and I think it's a wonderful tradition that we had for many years. But and then I moved. I mean, it's now been half of my life that I've spent abroad, away from home, because I'm 34, turning 35 this year. I came to the States the first time when I was 17, very young, and it's a big change. And music, is one of the wonderful things. Music can take you all over the world. Like, it's now we're very lucky that we get to travel across the world and be in similar places with the rain and all, and wake up to London. But it's wonderful, I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Well, and in fact, it was the Rotary organization that kind of helped facilitate you going to San Diego.
That is correct. The
where
Rotary
you were
Club.
Studying as a teenager.
Yes, and it all happened very quickly. I could have never guessed that my life was going to change drastically in a matter of 3 weeks. I went to San Diego for this summer festival with the San Diego Youth Symphony, organized by the Rotary Club, to whom I'm forever grateful and indebted to. And when I was there, the music director of the youth symphony said, "We'd love for you to stay." And I said, "Well, there's a big change for it suddenly to happen so quickly." But they were, again, through the Rotary Club, they found me a very good scholarship to study in Francis Parker, a brilliant school in San Diego. And they put me with a wonderful family that to this day, they are sort of my adopted family.
Yeah.
Well, I am their adopted kid, really. They become my second family. And it was really beautiful, when we married, like you said, on the 20th of August, and on the presidential table, we had Dani's parents, my parents, and then my mother's husband, and my host mother, which is like my mother. And for me, that was extremely
She
special.
wasn't going to miss that wedding.
Yeah,
No,
she
no.
wasn't. The whole family was there. It was great.
all of my host siblings, is 4
Yeah.
of them. And yeah, it's wonderful and very so I'm obviously very attached and connected to this country for many reasons.
Well, we talk about the passion you have for music, and you, in watching you conduct the Waco Symphony, I mean, you really throw your whole body into it, and really your mother saw something in you when you were a little kid and put you in dance.
Yes, and I loved it, actually. I love dancing, and Dani will tell you that that's one of the things that sort of caught her attention. I think it was one of those Royal College of Music parties early on, and we were dancing. I think, she saw me dancing. She will tell you this, or maybe not, I don't know. And so I've always liked it. And so I did ballet for 4 or 5 years, and
Did you?
really, really enjoyed it until I was a pretty chubby kid growing up, and it was around, I think, 9 or 10 that also studying music, and that obviously takes in the Spanish system takes a lot of time, so you have to sort of choose your battles. And also I was starting to get a bit bigger, so it was not so easy to do ballet motion and movement, so I call it quits, and I retired before I had even started, but enjoyed it very much.
Well, and you have a very strong tie to Baylor in your mentor, professor of French horn, Christy Morrell.
Absolutely. She was, in fact, the person that made me aware of the opening, that there was a conductor, a search for music director here at the Waco Symphony. Dr. Morrell is, it's great. I mean, we just came from doing a masterclass with the horn students, and I told them, I will try my very best to be helpful to you, but I owe a lot of my musicianship and my skills to Dr. Morrell, so you might hear some of the same things over and over, which is worth reiterating, because there are important things to learn as you are studying music. But it's such a treat, and now to spend time with her is always wonderful. She also came to the wedding with her family, which very grateful to have her there. And yeah, it's become I'm very honored to call her my friend now, as well as a mentor of mine to this day. I still confide in her and ask her for advice when needed.
Very good. And I know she is more than happy to continue that mentor relationship. You're principal conductor for a London-based orchestra, Vitae.
Correct.
And you're also on the board of that, which is it's just such a neat thing. You're creating the music and you're making it come to life.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, we had this conversation. I mean, Dani can tell you more about it. I don't want to hog the microphone, but we had this conversation a few years back. We were at the Cabrillo Music Festival in Santa Cruz. Dani had been there as a composer, and I went the following year as one of the conductor students there. And that year it was Leonard Slatkin, the obviously very esteemed American conductor, and he came with Cindy McTee, his wife. And I mean, you tell what you can tell and what they told us about this. We were concerned about this working relationship, conductor, composer. Is it gonna be, people are gonna look at us funny because I like Dani's music very much, so I'm very lucky that I don't have to lie about, like you said, if it was music that was a bit plonky, as they said, and she asked me, what do you think about this piece? Then I will have to be,
does this dress make me look fat?
Yeah, exactly. It's like no better never to answer 3 questions like that. But I'm very lucky that I love her music, and I think we work very well professionally, so we've done that a fair amount over the years, and but it was always a concern. But I mean, Lerner is lacking.
They said it was a great match. I mean, we didn't do it on purpose. When I met him, he was studying French horn,
Correct.
wanting to do conducting, but not actually certainly not being a conductor. So it's worked out really nicely because he has his thing. He has a lot of concerts, all over the place, and often not involving my music. And I have my own commissions with other orchestras. But then once in a while we get to work together, and that's really, really lovely. So, for example, for my debut album is with the Royal Liverpool Philharmonic. He's conducting 3 out of 5 of the pieces, one of the days, which was so wonderful to actually get to work with him because I can trust his musicianship. I can trust that I can be comfortable enough to say when I need something changed.
Yeah, I didn't hear it quite that way.
Exactly.
When I was writing.
Exactly. And that you don't always find that. A lot of conductors are wonderful to work with, but there's something really lovely about being able to be completely honest about all the things you'd like.
Well, I just think it's remarkable, and I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled to get to talk to the two of you.
It's a pleasure
Thank you
to
for
be
having
here.
Like
so
this.
thank
I
you.
mean, I just think it's amazing. I had such a good time reading more about you. Of course, we have had more opportunities
Yes, we
to
did,
visit. I
yes.
feel like, I know Pablo. But Danny, you have written everything from an opera to something for a trombone, and then something for a wine glass. You've got to explain to me about the wine thing.
I must say this was basically a bit of a passion project of mine that stemmed from during the first lockdown. We were in Mallorca because Pablo was working with the Balearic Symphony, and I got stuck there. What a shame to get stuck in Mallorca.
places.
Horrible thing.
My
Yeah.
flight back
worst
to
places.
London got cancelled, and I was fortunate to be working on an incredible project, but I realized it was all that. And I had this thought of, I don't remember the last time I wrote a piece that wasn't for a commission specifically, that was just, I want to write a piece of music, I'm going to write something.
Mm-hmm.
And this was playing on my mind for a while. And there was one night we'd just been, I think, watching a movie or something, having a glass of wine. And I finished the glass of wine and I just started moving my finger across the top. And I'm sure we've all done it. And there's that beautiful tone coming through on the wine glass. And I just, in my head, something just played through, and I heard a clarinet sort of line go over the top of this note. And I thought, you know what? That would be an amazing duet. And I kept thinking, and I thought, I've got so many friends that incredible musicians that I have wanted to work with for a long time, but nothing's ever come up where I can specifically do something. And they've also often mentioned we don't have many encore pieces that are short, fast, and I thought, what an interesting idea to do a series of encores for an instrument with wine glass. And I was in Spain, so I called them the Vino Encores. And I've done 4 so far for oboe, clarinet, trumpet, and bassoon. And I was hoping to continue at a faster rate, but things slowed. As soon as things opened up, I was involved with other projects.
Too busy.
No, but it is my plan to over time cover all the instruments and build a bit of a series for fun. That was the idea.
That's just creative as all get out.
They've been performed quite a lot now, actually, and
I bet they have.
It's really.
And so is it the
lovely.
stage manager that's emptying the
Well,
wine glass?
I kind of thought it could be whoever you wanted. If you're doing a recital with a pianist, the pianist could do it. If you're at a home concert, which is often the case, like a beautiful, intimate gathering, and there's someone that plays the clarinet, you could get any person
In the
there
audience, yeah.
in the audience to do it, as long as you've tuned it before to the note it needs to be tuned to. That's the
that would
idea.
be tricky. Yeah.
It could involve anyone you wanted, the audience or a friend or a parent or a
Yes.
Well, I had to ask you about that when I saw. But do you have like a favorite work so far? Because you have quite a body of work at a young age. I mean, I have to say. I mean, you've really composed a lot of music.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's what I studied. It's what my degree was in composition, and I think it was funny. As soon as I left, I think I started just writing a lot more than what I was used to writing. I'm not sure what happened. I think it might have been a combination of the commissions that were coming in, or a confidence in what I was able to do, that for some reason I was able to write a lot more. In terms of favorite pieces, no, I definitely don't have a favorite piece. It goes up and down from. Usually when I finish a piece, I then hate it and absolutely don't want to listen to it for a while. And then sometimes it stays that way, and other times I go back to thinking, oh, there was something about that piece, I did enjoy. But I think one of the pieces I still like, rather than despise listening to, is my trombone concerto, which was an incredible I felt really privileged to work with this trombonist, Peter Moore. He's principal of the London Symphony Orchestra and one of the best trombone players in the world, without a doubt. I don't think anyone would question that. And that was a piece that, I'm really still excited about and hoping can have a US premiere at some point. I'm about to go to Sweden for the European premiere of the piece. So, that's probably what I'm currently feeling proud of.
Hi, this is Sarah.
And I'm Carter.
And this is Some of Our Thoughts.
We're two Southern sommeliers, and we want to share everything we love and know about wine. We started hanging out during quarantine and cooking and drinking and listening to music, and we just thought this would be a great way to bring everything we know to you guys.
We will make wine knowledge and food pairings easy and approachable. So put on your favorite vinyl, grab your favorite glass of wine, tune into our show, and let's have some fun.
Wine and vinyl. So check us out on roguemedianetwork.com or wherever you get your favorite podcast. We'll be talking about a lot.
Bros and foes and heroes. Gonna tell you about bros and foes and heroes. Gonna tell you about.
Hey, I'm Zach.
And I'm Mike.
And we have a fantastic new podcast to tell you about. Bros, Foes, and Heroes. It's the two of us looking into the world of comics, breaking down some characters that you may have never heard of, and some that are just absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, so Zach comes up with a character each time, and I go into it just completely blind. I don't know who this person is or what their abilities are or anything, and basically I guess we kind of go over their origin story and just some of the ridiculous stuff that maybe, especially Golden Age stuff.
Oh, Golden Age stuff is always the best, and we will make sure to highlight all of the shenanigans and just absolute weirdness of everything.
Yeah, that's right. So subscribe today and follow us on Instagram at Bros, Foes, Heroes.
And if you don't, I know where you live. Not really, but please subscribe.
Bros and foes and heroes. Gonna tell you about bros and foes and heroes. Gonna tell you about.
Welcome to One Star Rewind, a new podcast about those dreaded one-star reviews that every business owner hates to receive, but yet every customer loves to read. During this podcast, we will peel back that one-star review to better understand how it happened, when it happened, and what the business owner is doing after receiving that one-star review. This podcast will be about love, hate, and laughter. On One Star Rewind, we will meet with real business owners who will tell their stories and how they do rely on reviews for their business. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, or download us at roguemedianetwork.com. Please subscribe, but only rate and review for not a one-star review. Join us each time for a new review and a new story.
Well, and your work has been performed all over the world, and you have worked literally all over the world, Pablo. Do you have a favorite place that you've conducted aside from Waco?
That's like I was gonna say. That's like saying who you love more, mommy or daddy.
It's, no.
No, each orchestra. But I'll tell you something. You know, if I have to be honest, sometimes you go to an orchestra and you really make up in your mind. We spend so much time, years. It's not just contrary to maybe some normal traditional degrees, so traditional professions where you start, you go to college and you do 4 years and you're trying to figure out what you want to do, and then you kind of go into your grad school, and by that point you sort of know what you want to do. And then, if you go into medicine, then you of course have to do the medicine.
It's a long process.
It's a long process,
Yeah, right.
but for us, it truly is a long process. Like I said, I was at age 8, and
I
you
was
probably-
5.
5,
Started drums.
and I'm 34 now, and it feels like it's been a long time to really. And now, of course, everyone is, oh, it's so great, you travel, and it's wonderful to travel all over the world, but it's such an effort and long process that you build it up in your head as you progress with better and better orchestras, that every single experience is going to be wonderful. And if I have to be honest, it's not always the case.
Yeah.
So I would be very silly of me to mention particular orchestras, or I won't, obviously, but there's been moments in which I really was excited to work with an orchestra, and it's not Waco. With Waco, was a very good, I promise. I had a great time, and Dani can attest to that.
Rave
buzzing.
reviews of the concert.
And I had a wonderful time. But Dani always says this, and he's very right. She can tell right away after so many years when it's going to be a great week or it's going to be an okay week, because of the tone of my first conversation with her after that engagement.
Yeah.
If she's not with me, sometimes we're very lucky we can travel together, because Dani can work in a lot of places with her computer or her manuscript paper, but obviously sometimes it's not possible. And then I call her and she says, how was it? How was your first day? And sometimes it's great and I'm buzzing, and you can tell in my tone of voice, and sometimes it's kind of like, well, it was.
Yeah.
So it can vary. It's hard to pinpoint one specifically, and also it varies very much. It's what is fresh in your mind. So now I have fresh, obviously, my time with Waco a couple of weeks ago, 3 weeks, however long that. It feels like a long time, because I've been in many countries since then.
Yeah, you have been busy.
But it's a wonderful. I really love the Spanish National Radio Orchestra. It's wonderful. But then working with the Royal Liverpool was fantastic. I'm going after this quick trip. I'm going to Belfast to work with the Ulster Orchestra for the first time on a BBC recording project, which is fantastic, and I'm really excited to work with them for the first time, because it's a bit like dating, It's like dating for the first time.
Yeah.
And every time, it's very exciting. You don't know where you're a bit nervous. You don't know what's going to happen. Is it going to be like love at first sight, or is it going to be like hard work, but then in the end, positive? It's
well, so folks understand that when you have a performance, you really just have a few days, literally, with professional musicians who already have the music and they're rehearsed and so forth. It's not like, school or even college where they're working on a given piece of music maybe for weeks. Yeah. Not the case. It's boom.
Yeah, and it's like Dani often talks about this as a composer, because she works on a piece for months. Sometimes, this trombone concerto was 3-4 months at least.
Yeah, 4 months.
And then you suddenly have so little time, because often with an orchestra as well, and I think this is wise, when you're premiering a work by a contemporary composer, so a living composer, I think it's wise the first rehearsal not to have the composer there. And this is something that I know Dani's changed her tune from the beginning, where she wanted to be there. I want to be there at the beginning. Yeah. And I said, actually,
I don't go anymore.
give them a bit of time, because they need work, they need to develop. So they spend even less time than I do. Sometimes it'll be 2 rehearsals maximum. And you work so hard for this piece, and it feels like such a fleeting experience that it must be. I mean, I know that it's hard for you, especially if you don't have the most wonderful, it's not one of those buzzing ones.
Yeah. It depends on the orchestra, and I don't like going to the first rehearsal, because they know they're going to make a mistake, and they know that they need to fix it, and so they just need that first rehearsal without you. I think you don't want to be there because it's not going to sound right the first time. They don't want you to be there because they know they don't want you judging it based on this first run. Mm-hmm. But it is really magical to have what you've had in your mind and in your brain for so long actually come through your ears. Is something, it sounds silly, but it's really, really special. And then even more special to be in the audience for the performance, to see, because that's what you're writing it for, the audience, the players and the audience.
And to see their response.
Exactly. And you just hope that, there's even if it's a very small number of people in the audience, that it moves them in some way that they haven't experienced before. That's the idea.
At that point, all pressure's off of you.
Yeah.
All the pressure's on you.
Exactly, and that's what you have to think. You think there's nothing I can do now, which can be great in some ways, but can also be quite scary because things can go wrong that are completely out of your control, and you have no ability to change whether that goes right or wrong. But you know, that's part of life, and
it's contemporary music. It was supposed to
exactly,
sound like that.
exactly.
I always tell Dani, you have to keep an open mind, because sometimes, as it often happens, out of silly mistakes or unforeseen circumstances, great things happen. And I remember vividly, there was an experience with Dani, which they were premiering a piece of hers. I would say the orchestra or the play, so which one? And everything was going great. And I remember vividly at the very end, there was a
Tubular
note.
bells.
Yes, which
Very loud.
She knows which one I'm going to talk about. There was the tubular bells, this very soft note, and the player just got it totally wrong.
Oh. And
I see
semi-turn off, which is like, it's not even close.
It's just kind of
too close.
But I remember Dani had this horrifying face. It's like, oh my God, what just happened? Almost like the world was going to end. And I was just in there going, I like it.
He said, I prefer it. It's
I
the
like
end of the piece. Everything's
I'm
quiet
preferring.
on me now. A really loud wrong.
I loved it. It was
I disagree on
not
this
a case
one.
of more cowbell. We don't need more cowbell.
so yeah.
On that case, I disagreed because I would rather it be the note that I wrote.
I think you have to keep an open mind. And
but I agree. Sometimes surprises happen that you think that was not what I was expecting, and actually it works better. And occasionally that, in fact, in our recording session, there was someone that came in 2 bars early, and my initial reaction was, oh, that's wrong. But I kept listening and I thought, you know what? It works so well there.
It's
and
okay.
I love it. And I actually rewrote it in the
did you
score.
really?
Yes, I did, because I thought, you know what? I prefer it.
The beauty of editing.
Yes.
Speaking of which, I mean, I'm imagining Beethoven, writing everything down. I'm sure you got all kinds of fun programs and so forth that helps you.
I mean, I do handwrite everything first.
Do you?
Now I moved to the computer sooner than I used to. I used to have a lot more detailed sketches handwritten, but I like starting a piece handwritten because you've not got to put in all the information that you use. I use the Sibelius software. You've not got to decide everything about the time signature and exactly which instrument's doubling what, I find more freedom at the beginning to have that handwritten. But yeah, then I've got a playback. I can listen back. I try not to all the time, but you can listen back. But yeah, when I get stuck, I move back to manuscript paper because I think that I then look at what I've done, rewrite it out, see it. There's something quite organic about handwriting. Something
taking that eraser.
Exactly. Yes. So I think I enjoy. Yeah, moving between the two, but obviously nowadays we have to provide the musicians with it from the computer. We can't give them parts that are handwritten.
Right,
so,
right.
Yeah.
Very true.
I'm fascinated by the process and just what you're able to bring to contemporary life through music. I love something that you said. You love being able to dedicate your life to making people feel some of the greatest emotions that humans can feel, and truly music does that.
Absolutely. And yeah, it's a privilege. I almost feel like we have with what is it, the say goes in English, with great privilege or great power comes great responsibility.
Responsibility, yes.
And yeah, it sounds like that kind of thing that you find on a one of those fortune cookies, but it's true. I do believe it. It's a wonderful thing. There's a reason why when people are really down, and we've all been there, we're really down and we listen to something and it lifts our hearts and suddenly we smile and we feel much better, or we
need
don't
the
know
motivation.
Yeah, we don't know what is happening, and then you listen to something and then you have a nice cry and then
it can move you to tears.
It can move you. So I do believe classical music has that ability on a pure musical level. And of course, you mentioned I have very strong views about the role that, because of that ability to move emotions and to move people emotionally, that we have to have a great responsibility with what we do in our community and how we transform the community through the activities of an orchestra in this case, or us as musicians. But definitely it's a beautiful thing, and every time I get on the podium, that's what I want to do. I want to make sure that someone gets touched. If it's touched musically, that sounds very wrong. I really look forward to that moment in which someone comes and says, I mean, it's happened to you with your music, and when someone has come to you and said, I really needed, your music has lifted my spirit, or this come to me and said, I was really not having a great day, and this concert has really put me in the right place, so thank you. That for me means the world. Just like when a little young person comes in and said, wow, that was amazing. I'd never seen an orchestra before. That for me is worth it, even if it's just one.
Amen.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
how
That
lucky
is
are we
so
that
true.
how lucky are we that we really get to travel the world,
do
like you
that.
said, to do that.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
really, it's quite a
Yeah.
blessing, really.
Well, I could talk to you for hours, but we need to wrap this up. But I do love to end these little visits with a questionnaire. It's similar to the one the late, great James Lipton would use on Inside the Actors Studio.
Yeah.
And I will ask you both, what is your favorite word?
Ooh, you go first.
Perseverance.
Yeah,
You have to think that one very hard.
that's right.
Marinade.
Really?
Because it's sorry.
That's the first time, and I've asked this of a lot of people, but that's a first.
It's something. Sorry,
But
I
that's
just
a good
thought about-
word.
It's something that my composition teacher used to say about letting ideas marinate in your brain, and I know we do it with food, and I don't know. It's the first thing I thought of, and I use it a lot day to day, and I like how ideas can evolve, opinions can evolve over time from it marinating in your mind. Yeah, sorry.
Good. I love it. I love it.
I can never hear that. This is where I mentioned it. You'll find it funny. When I was here 3 weeks ago, we went to this wonderful restaurant, and for the first time I had frog legs, and they were marinated. So now the first thing when you said marinate, I thought frog legs, and it was like
From Waco.
from Waco, would never ever in my life.
as they
think
say,
of-
it tastes like chicken, right?
it kind of did. But it was more marinated than anything else. So
More than marinade. Well, what is your least favorite word?
Oh,
ooh.
you go first.
I
Moist.
I have to say my least favorite word.
Definitely moist. For me.
Moist.
I have heard that before.
Have you? Yeah.
have.
It's not a nice word.
That's funny.
Cringe, actually.
Cringe, yeah.
Cringe. Yeah.
What turns you on creatively, spiritually, or emotionally? And you can't say music.
No, of course. You go first, Dani, this one.
For me, experiences, people and places.
Yeah.
You know, every time I go somewhere, even today going to the zoo, we had a lovely talk. I'm
Feeding the bears.
really inspired
good.
by nature and encounters with humans and visual places that I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
For me, probably improvement. To know that whether it's improvement of the community, the society, of the music, anything that I feel that is making something better as a result of it. That really excites me.
Then what turns you off creatively, or spiritually, or emotionally?
Ill intentions, bad comments that are intended with no other intention than to be bitterness. Bitter is another word I
yeah.
really don't like.
Yeah. I suppose the judgment. I really believe in sort of you do you, and things aren't for everyone, and that's okay. And find what you love and let other people enjoy what they love. And
Stay in your lane. You always tell me, stay in your lane. Stay in your lane.
Right. Okay, I'm going to ask two musicians. What sound do you love the most?
Oh, this one is easy.
Oh.
The sound I love the most is strings tuning.
Really?
So before I go on a stage, literally, sometimes I'm nervous depending on the responsibility, the degree. Like here, Waco obviously had a wonderful time, but I'm aware that this is a process of selection. So you want to do a good job, you want to make sure the audience enjoys, and all these nerves sort of go away the moment that I hear, which is actually quite an unpleasant sound for most people. It's kind of, but I absolutely love it. I my happy place.
I think for me it would be the basketball swish. When you, because I used to play a lot of basketball,
did you?
when
Yeah.
you get it in the net without hitting the sides, and
That's right.
We call it the swish. And
Nothing but net.
Exactly. I think that is definitely my favorite sound.
Okay, good. Then what's your least favorite sound?
Oh, for me, the thing I thought of that as soon as you asked your favorite sound was the cracking of anything. In that, I've heard one of my friends in warming up and their ligament in the ankle cracked, and
An Achilles tendon.
Yeah, exactly, and it haunts me. So that's probably my least.
It
favorite.
is a sound that you do not forget.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
What about you?
For me, it'll have to be a very loud motorbike when they just rev really loud, and it's not only unpleasant to the ear, but also it's just
Really?
yeah, I just really don't like
okay.
it at all.
What other profession would you like to try or have liked to try?
I think I would have gone down the basketball route, to be honest.
Really?
I that was
WNBA.
definitely- Yeah, well, I don't think I was tall enough, but in Hong Kong I was tall.
Yeah, that's probably true.
But I think, internationally not so much. But
That's
yeah,
great.
I think for me, really, I was never debating whether I'd be a musician. I think it was what type of musician. And I think, I there are other parts of composing I would have gone into, like maybe film or something else but I think it would still have to be a musician, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I always thought if I didn't went down the musician route, which also became clear very quickly, I would have studied psychology and journalism. I love communicating, and I love understanding people, and I think this is why I love conducting so much, because you actually need to have a fair amount of both of those skills.
For sure.
But now probably if I wasn't a musician, I'd probably go into management.
Okay.
Some kind of musical management.
Musical
of some form.
management.
Yeah.
Well, what job do you know you would not want to do?
Accountant. I hate doing my accounts as a self-employed. Yeah, definitely. Or law. I struggle with. It's not that
Somebody's
I struggle.
gotta do it,
Someone's
but
got to
not
do
me.
it. But it's
Yeah.
just I have. It's not that I can't read it. It's just I have zero interest at that legal lingo for me personally. But I'm very grateful to those that do that.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously.
For me, anything that involves booking, anything.
Oh, flights or hotels,
Flights,
or
hotels,
restaurants.
anything. Danny could tell you, it's every
He
time. I
hates
mean,
it.
I cannot stand it. And really,
Yeah.
just
So being someone's PA would be the worst.
Yeah, travel agent, any
Yes.
of that
a
kind
travel
of
Yeah.
agent, anything like
No,
that.
no.
I absolutely just can't do it.
But I know you appreciate them,
Yeah.
especially
Very
when they
much.
get it right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Gosh,
Well,
it's
one
so-
last question. What do you want to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
You go first.
oh, that's a beautiful question, actually.
That is a lovely question.
Welcome home.
Yeah, I think something I heard was about you. I'm trying to think of the whole quote, and I don't think I can remember it all, so I won't say that. But yeah, I think welcome home would be beautiful. Yeah.
These responses usually bring me to tears.
Yeah.
It was kind of like,
It's so
I was
sweet.
like,
I
whoa.
know.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, it has just been a delight. Danny Howard and Pablo Urbina,
Thank you so much
two
for having us.
just
So much.
amazing individuals in the world of classical music, and so many fabulous things lie ahead for the two of you.
Well, thank you so much for having
Thank
us
you.
here.
It's
and
been a pleasure.
My
It's-
first time in Texas has been absolutely brilliant.
Well,
so hope to be
welcome,
back.
partner. We're glad to have you here. And we're glad you were with us as well. Please join us again next time for Central Texas Life. Bye-bye.
Central Texas Life with Ann Harder is part of the Rogue Media family. Be sure to check out our other shows at roguemedianetwork.com. Please rate this show 5 stars on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, or anywhere you get your podcasts. Join us again soon for more Central Texas Life with Ann Harder.